I don't know if you saw the Commission of Inquiry's latest report on the genocide, saying it's a genocide beyond reasonable doubt. It took them 2 years to say that. And this is one of the failures. It took the UN ages to declare it famine, even though we have been talking about it for ages and how it affected women. Also, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is one of the failures that should be talked about. They're trying to be gender inclusive, and that's why they have a day for women to shoot them at. The testimonies are quite horrifying when it comes to the utilization of technology and face recognition and the quad captors. And this is one of the things the UN mechanisms fail to capture, utilization of technology and drones to terrify women and children in their homes. When we work with the UN and the mechanisms, sometimes that they really want to look at grave violations, and sometimes they leave out so many details, especially the topic of sexual violence that we have documented at the Women's Center with the women in Gaza and in the West Bank. One of the things also that we think the UN has failed to address is the context of occupation. We talk about women, peace and security in conflict, in wars, but it doesn't really encapsulate the situation of Palestinian women having to live these things every day. You don't see, for example, verbal sexual violence talked about much, but imagine being a schoolgirl, 12, 13, and 15, having to walk to school every day, and then hear the soldier or the Israeli settler calling you sharmuta, aka yani prostitute. One of the things also we talk about is the threat at checkpoints of sexual violence. This has resulted in early marriages in these areas because families would want to send their daughters out of the area in which all of this is happening. This is in addition, obviously, to looting women by Israeli soldiers and settlers as well. They would strip search them over and over again to find any sort of expensive stuff and jewelry. One of the things also is the complicity of corporates like Meta. They did not do anything towards the incitement against the Palestinian people in Gaza on Israeli accounts, dehumanizing them and demonizing them later on to justify the ongoing atrocities and genocide. One of the things also is the fact that people in Gaza, they don't want to live near journalists because they are afraid they might be targeted as well. So they don't even want to rent them places in many instances. And not being able to provide this sort of protection and take concrete actions to protect journalists in Gaza is a failure to the UN mechanism. Also, one of the things we think the UN is failing at is protecting their own. They're being sanctioned left and right. They're being sanctioned by the US. They're being sanctioned by Israel. They're not being allowed to even come to investigate. When it comes to the UN, we like the UN, okay? We try to make it better. That's the thing. And we know it's a dysfunctional system at this point, but we believe in the work of men and women who work for Palestine, including special rapporteurs who have worked relentlessly, and including also, we always like to say UNRWA. We always have to support UNRWA because of the work that they have been doing in Gaza. Criticism doesn't mean we're going after them and we don't want to engage. That's why we're here. We're trying to engage to provide all the evidence and the testimonies.